This is episode 342 of the Super League Pod, and it's a special week where all the Super League teams join the NRL teams in earning unique new nicknames from one listener's cousin. We have an SLP host derby to cover, along with all your fan reviews on the weekend's action. Find out who consensus says was a bell end on the field, and we talk a bit about another man who just can't help himself from missing games. Plus, Jake Connor makes a great case for England's selection and as great a case for non-selection in the continuing saga of the two sides of the snake. Not forgetting our guesses and poll results previewing the Challenge Cup final. Get strapped in, it's SLP time. Hello listeners, welcome along to episode 342 of the Super League Pod. Welcome back to everyone who listens every week. Hello to anyone who's listening for the first time. This week you have myself, Mark, and I'm joined by Hull fan Sarah. Welcome back, Scoots.
Hi, you alright?
Not Scarer.
Well, some people might say so.
I was halfway between saying Sarah and Scoots, and I ended up with Scarer. That's probably the worst one.
Yeah.
How you doing? You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. How about you?
Yeah, I'm alright. I'm not scared, so that's a start.
Not yet, anywhere.
Do you want to get things started by telling us about our wonderful friend Rob's Megastore?
Yeah, so Rob's Megastore continues to support Super League Pod, and he stocks a wide range of toys, stationery, arts and craft ideas, pet accessories, books, and of course Rugby League birthday cards. You can search for Rob's Megastore on eBay or find the link in our episode blog post on superleaguepod.com. SLP listeners can use the code SLP10, that's SLP10 at checkout, to get 10% off any orders over £5. Or if you enter SLP discount, you can give you 10% towards funding SLP's running costs instead.
Yep, good stuff. Thanks, Rob's Megastore. Please do support them. So what we've got on the show today, we're going to recap round 13 of Super League, which includes, of course, a SLP host derby, Wigan versus Wigan at Hull FC. That caps things off there. Fan reviews on all the games. Some of them make more sense than others. I think one of our friends from down under clearly had a lot of time on his hands this weekend. You'll notice that as we go through the fan reviews. We'll cover off the other results and bits and pieces of news as well from around the world of Rugby League as we go through, and then it'll build up towards our guesses for the first who wins the first silverware of the season as the game makes its way down to Tottenham for the 1895 Cup final, of course the Challenge Cup final. So we had a poll out on that, so we'll bring the results of that a few days out, so it's all speculative guesses, but still it's fun to make them. Yeah, so that's what we've got coming up. We're going to start with a few bits of sort of shout outs, things to call out for people really. So Sarah, we're going to start with the email that you sent through to me yesterday, and when I read the first line of it, it said, I think the first word of it might have been today, or within the first sentence it said today, so I was like, shit, I need to make sure I post this today then. So what did you have to get off your chest this week, Sarah?
Yeah, it's something that I've been sort of thinking about on and off for a while, just general sort of behaviour towards referees generally. Obviously, I've got a slightly vested interest now with Joshua doing it, but yeah, I think it came to a head. I was really, really cross and disgusted by the fact that, you know, people thought that when Chris Kendall announced the birth of his son, it was acceptable to say you hope it dies.
That was horrific.
It sickened me. And then I was just thinking a bit more about it. I think then the next thing that happened was Joshua obviously was at Butlins for the Rhino Challenge, and there were a couple of things he said about that, and I just thought, wow, if we're encouraging and allowing our juniors to speak to their referees like this, then is it any wonder that people think that behind the anonymity of a screen that you can, you know, say what you want about referees and their families? And also I'd watched This is, slight spoiler for my SLP recommends for later in the show, but I'd watched the Doc House podcast show when they had Ian Smith on it, and he was talking about some of the abuse he got. And I mean, horrifically, it was at Hull when the police said, we cannot guarantee your safety getting from your dressing room in the stadium to your car, which we will drive to the door leaving the stadium. Like, how disgusting is that? This is an individual, this is a human being, and who he admits he made a mistake in the game. He sent off probably the wrong player, but that is all he did. He hasn't gone out, he hasn't committed a crime, he hasn't done anything else. He's done
sent off the wrong player rather than sent off players when nothing had happened that deserved a sending off either. Someone deserved to get sent off.
Yeah, and also he sent off Lee Radford, who had retaliated, but Smith hadn't seen the original offence. So Radford had still committed an infraction of the rules. So he was still a guilty party. Yes, he wasn't the only guilty party. Yes, it probably impacted on us losing the game. But to have it where somebody cannot, we don't live in a war-torn society. We're not at the point of, having snipers on roofs and things like that. We'd like to think we live in a civilised society where people should be able to walk down the street or walk to their car without fearing violence.
Certainly when it's just about a game at the end of the day.
So, yeah, I think it was sort of a combination of those things that sort of just came to a head. So I thought I'd write something with a slightly different take, because, yes, I am that fan in the stadium and I will complain about decisions and things, but I'm also the person that stands behind the touch line, on my own, between the two sets of fans, fearing what somebody's going to say to my son.
Yeah, it's a good piece. So it's about sort of abuse of referees, basically. So go to superleaguepod.com and you'll be able to check that out on there. We have had a couple of bits of feedback in sort of off the back of that already, but I haven't had time to put them into the show, so we'll try and pick them up down the line. But thanks for people getting in touch with them. Someone also got in touch to say the blog's hard to read on the mobile version, which I had never realised or noticed before in 9 years, so apologies to those people. But if you're struggling to read it on your mobile, you should be able to read it really easily on your laptop, because it looks a lot better on a laptop. I'm not sure what happened there, but I'll look into the settings about that. But it is definitely worth the read. So thanks for sharing that, Sarah. And I think it's a good segue into us just having a quick chat about Joshua's young refereeing career. So a little bit of, a couple of incidents that weren't as nice as other incidents at the Rhinos Challenge weekend, where this time he refereed. But overall, how was Joshua's experience basically refereeing every 20 minutes or whatever it was?
Yeah, so he absolutely loved it. On the Saturday, he spent the morning doing under 10s, and then in the afternoon he did a bit of under 11s, under 12s, a bit of training on touch judging. So he's now fully qualified as a touch judge. He's got his own flags. He can tell you, what it is that the touch judge should and shouldn't be flagging up and all the rest of it. And then on the Sunday, the referee he was alternating with lost his voice in the first match. So Joshua basically largely refereed on his own from 10 till 3. Again, under 10s. And then he also got to do a bit of touch judging for under 14s for one of the semi-finals, which he said was really good. He came away with the award for the best referee on the under 10s pitch. And he had a really, really great time. He absolutely loved it.
So a positive experience being around other referees and getting to have some new experiences, and that's really fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, the people, the senior referees that took them were absolutely great. Total support and everything else. So yeah, really good.
Excellent. That's great to hear. Hopefully, we'll continue to hear how his developing refereeing career goes, I'm sure. God, I can only imagine how tiny he was when he was stood up against some under 14s. So in those games.
He said it was one of the scariest things as people were being tackled into touch, because he said obviously the barriers that the supporters had to be behind were only rope.
Yeah.
And they were inching it further forward. And he was telling them that they couldn't, because obviously that reduces the amount of space he's got between the touchline and them, as these massive players compared to him are being tackled into touch. And so, yeah, I think that was his biggest issue, really.
Good stuff. I also wanted to call out that we're getting close to episode 347, which is the next guest host show. I know we've had quite a lot of expressions of interest from people who wanted to do the guest host show. Now I've completely forgot who was up for it when we last asked, and I don't want to guess some people who were and then turns out that they weren't. So what I'm asking for is people to drop a message to us on Twitter at Super League Pod, or facebook.com/Super League Pod, or email superleaguepod@gmail.com, just to register your interest. So I'll just confirm when that episode will be, so people can check that they will be available, not on holiday and that sort of stuff. It will be recorded on a Tuesday night and can be recorded remotely like we normally do the show, or I suppose there's nothing to stop people doing it in person with me if they wanted to travel to where I live, but I don't think I'll be able to travel too much. So online's probably the best way. But that will be Tuesday, the 28th of June. So that will be the last sort of guest host spot of the year that hasn't already been taken. We've given one of our former champions, Tom Andrews, the honour of the last guest host slot of the year in August. So the June one, Tuesday the 28th of June. So if people want to drop a message through to us, then I'll get some sort of spinny wheel type thing up, and I'll remember to video it this time as well, and then we can see who gets picked out for that. So do get in touch over the next week or so if you're interested in guest hosting a show in a few weeks' time. We also talked last week about the sad news about Maurice Lindsay. There was rounds of applause at all the grounds this week to celebrate him, and I think, Sarah, overall, even though Maurice was quite divisive at times, certainly in the mid-90s when he was leading the RFL and looking at changes to the sport and that sort of stuff, but overall he's been looked back on fondly, I think, over the last week, which is nice for his legacy that he leaves, as he's passed away at 81. But Karsten got in touch. Do you want to let people know what Karsten had to say?
Yeah, so Karsten said, he left the game before I started following it, but when a paper he commissioned gets mentioned every year in every discussion about the future of the game, then I think his kind is something the sport is missing right now. Yeah,
I mean, we're still looking towards framing the future as a reference point of where we maybe want to be with the sport, and with the IMG deal coming in now and what's going to happen there. Maybe instead of one individual who puts himself up there as the figurehead of the sport, we might have obviously a number of groups and sub companies of those groups or what have you that might do it. But certainly there's things from Maurice to take inspiration from with that sort of stuff, isn't there?
Yeah, I think, love him or hate him, he was a leader of the sort that we don't have now.
Yeah. So thanks, Carsten, for getting in touch about that, and well done to everyone for being respectful of Maurice Lindsay at the weekend in all the matches. If people want to get in touch either about hosting episode 347 with me, or talking about Sarah's blog, or on the topic of the league structure in IMG and the way forward for the sport, that sort of stuff, next week's going to be a good opportunity for us to discuss that sort of stuff, because we'll have the Challenge Cup final recap and we'll talk about the 1895 final, but there won't be many other games. There's only one other game really for us to talk much about in the UK, so feel free to get in touch. And how you get in touch on social media, it's at Super League Pod on Twitter and Instagram. I must remember to do some Instagrams next Saturday. Or it's facebook.com/Super League Pod. You can email superleaguepod@gmail.com or visit superleaguepod.com, and that's where you'll get info on each episode and Sarah's blog post and links to the Google